Welcome to the Awesemo MMA DFS Strategy Show, of course, right here on Awesemo.com. I am Jason Floyd. We are here to break down UFC 262. Of course, on the right-hand side of the screen is my man, Pete Rogers Jr., the fighter who getting ready to go into that Bellator bubble next week, as working there, as he has got his own little sidekick here on the show. Of course, Pete, how you doing, man? I know you're there. Obviously, you're 1 week out from your guy, Nate Andrews, stepping in the Bellator cage. Are you ready for the quarantine next week inside that Bellator bubble?
Let me tell you, I have to do the bubble, and that's a little weird because it's in my hometown. So it's kind of like I will be in my own hometown, but I can't do anything, and I'm restricted to a hotel room. So obviously that's like a little strange, but I'm excited for my boy Nate Andrews, who's fighting Saad Awad at Bellator. We've been grinding a lot. I've been working a lot on his striking, so I'm really excited to see him go out there and put on a hell of a performance. Hopefully you guys can tune in because I believe we're on the prelims or something like that, but it's going to be a heck of a fight.
I believe it's actually the featured matchup on the prelim based on the bout sheet that I got today from Bellator PR. So, but of course, we're here to break down UFC 262. Hopefully it is not like last week where we lost fights and then, of course, then it became a roster construction. Kudos, Pete, last week, calling Trezano there. Great call you on that part. Of course, I definitely had a little share of that, so we'll see how that goes there. But, of course, if you do have any questions on the fights, be sure to leave those right now in the YouTube chat, also in our premium Slack account as well. We'll get to those questions as we do go on. Before we get into the fight roster construction, Pete, let's first off talk about that. As I literally, it was about 30 to 45 minutes ago was the first time I actually looked at salaries. I had seen the betting odds before, so I kind of knew where the salaries would ultimately be, but there were some salaries that stuck out to me. And I think the one thing about this card in terms of roster construction is sometimes there's weeks where we really struggle, on DraftKings with that under 8,000 fighter. I don't think this is one of those weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, fight card for sure. I think that I'm going to be very disappointed for not being able to watch the fight card, and I picked a really bad weekend to disappear. But for roster construction, I think, typically we start at the main event and it's usually priced up. And I think that both guys are pretty affordable. Charles Oliveira, 8,700, Michael Chandler, 7,500. So that's a nice starting point, whether you like one side or the other. I think that's a great way to get going with your lineups. But, under that 8K, does seem like there's some people in there that are definitely some good plays.
Of course, if you ever do miss the show here, you can check it a part of the Awesemo Podcast Network. All of our shows here, with the exception of Live Before Lock, they are available on the Podcast Network at awesemo.com/podcast. And be sure to leave a 5-star rating review with your Twitter handle or email address, and you will be eligible to win a free week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. One winner is awarded every Friday, and reviews are eligible to win up to 1 year. You heard Pete mention he's going to miss the card on Saturday. Well, Pete's not going to be with me on Saturday. Josh Engel will be joining me on Saturday. Live Before Lock, we will be on 5 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, we'll have a ton of great program here on Awesemo, so be sure to hit that subscribe button so you always know when a new show is live here on the channel. If you're like me, I'm an early bird riser, so I usually wake up to Josh Engel as I walk into the home office about 6 a.m. and then, hey, Josh is on with the process. So you definitely got to check out that. A lot of great program we have here at awesemo.com. But let's get right into this one, Pete. Main event, Charles Oliveira taking on Michael Chandler. Vacant lightweight title fight. Minus 135 betting favorite for Charles Oliveira. Plus 115 for Michael Chandler. And me and Pete were talking right before the show. And, you look at, the pricing on this one, DraftKings at $8,700, $7,500, $21, $18 respectively over on FanDuel. And this is one of those fights that I just feel like you have to, when we're talking about fights you need to have exposure to, this is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great starting point for your lineups. I already mentioned that. It's quite a task for Michael Chandler to come in from another promotion in Bellator, have an outstanding debut, now get a title shot, and to take out what I think is the dark horse for the division in Charles Oliveira. Now, he has the skill set to absolutely do that because Charles Oliveira, early on in his UFC career, he was able to get bullied. He was able to get broken within the octagon. But Charles Oliveira 2.0, or Charlie Olives, if you want to call him, is, a very, very different fighter. And when he goes forward and he can implement some sharp striking, strong Muay Thai, the best jiu-jitsu, I think, in the game, honestly. I really do. I really idolize Charles Oliveira. I like how his style is for the division. He's always hunting finishes. It's a lean for me. It's not a strong feeling in one direction or another. I will have plenty of both fighters, but, I think that Charles Oliveira could be going a little bit overlooked, especially for, being the UFC veteran in this situation. If he can, even test out low leg kicks against Michael Chandler, what happens if Michael Chandler leaves his neck out on an overextended double leg takedown, or even gets caught with a knee up the middle? I mean, we have seen Michael Chandler get hurt, rocked, and finished, throughout his career. So, I mean, both guys, I think it's going to be a smash score for whoever comes out victorious. But Michael Chandler has the wrestling pedigree to make things interesting, and I know that's a point that you definitely want to talk about.
Yeah, let me get your as a fighter perspective. I mean, you mentioned about the jiu-jitsu level that Charles Oliveira has. If you are in team Michael Chandler, is the mindset of, hey, let's just not worry about the ground aspect of this. Let's just keep the fight on the feet. Let's not go potentially into Charles Oliveira's world?
I mean, I probably wouldn't recommend wrestling. I wouldn't. I mean, not early on anyways. I think that it could be implemented later on. I think that he should try to, bully Charles Oliveira early on, get in his face, keep pressure, get him backing up. And when he's backing up, it doesn't seem to be the same fighter. I mean, not many people are the same fighter, Jason, when you get them on their heels. It's just natural, right? I mean, not many people can fight backing up. And I think if Michael Chandler went out there and just tried to grapple Charles Oliveira, he's comfortable in a situation like that, even if he's facing a dominant wrestler. Obviously, if he winds up on the bottom, he could be on the wrong end of getting ground and pound finished, like you and I spoke of before the show. And, that's definitely possible because Michael Chandler hits like crazy. He's got so much power for his compact frame. But, I think the takedowns need to be added on throughout as the rounds progress. And as the fight goes on, it does favor Michael Chandler.
One thing I do want to mention here about both of these guys is where they have gone in their careers. Charles Oliveira, 2010 to 2017 in the UFC, 10 wins, 8 losses, 1 no contest. I believe the number is he was stopped in 7 of those 8 defeats. It was just 2 years ago that Michael Chandler was knocked out by Patricio Pitbull, losing the Bellator lightweight title. Chandler before that was 7-5 in his previous 12 matchups. And so let me just say this. If Michael Chandler wins on Saturday night, Pete, I want to make a bet with you. If Chandler wins over under 20 minutes before Scott Coker and Patricio Pitbull tweet the best lightweights in Bellator.
Yeah. I mean, come on, let's be real. Yeah. It's a win-win situation for them, right? Because Michael Chandler is coming from their promotion and their current champion has a win over Michael Chandler. So, I mean, they look good regardless. And I think everybody recognizes the skill set and the talent of Michael Chandler. I mean, I'm going to be having plenty of Michael Chandler. And on a personal level, I think that he's such a great human being. I think that he's a great ambassador for the sport. He can do great things and possibly bring Khabib out of retirement, if anybody, but I don't really foresee that happening. But, it's just an interesting matchup. It really is. And I'm excited to watch it the day after it occurs.
And of course, every day over at Awesemo.com, we do have free premium data and tools. Today's free premium data and tools: NBA ownership projections, MLB player rankings, and NHL player and stack rankings. Today, one of the tools that I was looking over there. Of course, when you're also Plus member, I was looking at those ownership projections as some interesting numbers. I will tell you, one of the numbers I immediately looked for was Gina Mazany, because that was obviously a topic of conversation in our Slack account. Let's move over to the co-main event of this fight card: Tony Ferguson versus Beneil Dariush. 7,600 for Ferguson, 8,600 for Dariush. Dariush $21 over on Fanduel, $13 for Tony Ferguson. Beneil Dariush a -175 betting favorite. When I looked at the betting odds, that definitely stuck out to me. And I'm seeing some of these clips today from the press conference with Tony Ferguson. And I think I still have my same thought process I had in his last matchup against Charles Oliveira is, has he made any changes? Or is it status quo? If it's status quo and there has not been changes made from what happened in the Gaethje fight and what happened in the Charles Oliveira fight, then I want to go Beneil Dariush. The other question I have with Tony Ferguson is, has Father Time caught up with him? And you know what I say, Pete, about Father Time? Father Time is undefeated. It is the undisputed champion.
Yeah, it really is. And I will say that this is going to be a pivotal matchup for, the entire slate and for a lot of GPP tournaments, because a lot of people will be flocking to Tony Ferguson as a value play. I mean, he is a fan favorite. A lot of people love his fighting style. I mean, he was the boogeyman. He's ran through the entire 155-pound division until he's finally, met an adversary who could test him. And that was Justin Gaethje on short notice. Justin Gaethje, and then following Justin Gaethje, now the boogeyman is, people don't fear the boogeyman so much because one person has done it before. And now Charles Oliveira goes in there, dominant performance, just completely outclasses him. So it's a matter of how far has he fallen. And I don't even think that he has to fall far at all, because Beneil Dariush is legit. I think that he is a legitimate contender within the division, and this is a very, very, very difficult matchup for Tony Ferguson to kind of rebound on. Beneil Dariush has a complete skill set. Good Muay Thai out of Kings MMA, phenomenal BJJ. If this does hit the mat and there are sequences of grappling, I would love to see who is, in advantageous positions, who is the better scrambler, who threatens who, because Tony Ferguson is just a wild card in everything. Personally, his fighting style, he's tricky to prepare for. You don't know what he's going to say. You don't know what he's going to do. And he's just completely unorthodox. But this is a very, very difficult matchup. I do like Beneil Dariush, and I do like the fighter that he's evolved into within the division. And I know that he doesn't have like a true notable win. He does. He has Drew Dober. But outside of that, you think of Camacho, Close, Holtzman, Fajea. Are they on Ferguson's level? No. The Ferguson of old, this is the biggest fight of his career for sure. And it could be a nice opportunity to have a leverage position on Dariush, because everybody will be flocking to the name of Tony Ferguson. And I do like Beneil Dariush in the fight. I truly do. I think that he can negate some of Ferguson's strengths and possibly expose some of these holes that might have not been patched up from previous performances from Ferguson.
Here's my concern with Beneil Dariush, and let me see if you have the same concerns.
Okay.
He does tend to leave himself open, get into brawls, chin's kind of out there. That does concern me. I will tell you, though, prop bets on this fight are insane if you think this fight's going to end via stoppage. Dariush by TKO KO, plus 480. Ferguson by TKO KO, plus 520. Dariush by submission, plus 610. Ferguson by submission, plus 865.
Wow. At that point, right? Like sprinkle some. I might even do that. I will be out of town, but I might have to do that before I head out of town. You can always count on Jason to find these little gems when it comes to prop bets or interesting spots. And we appreciate it, Jason. This is a fight where I don't really know how it's going to go. Like, I could see them having, back and forth moments and, the needle kind of swaying back and forth between each fighter. And perhaps Dariush kind of edges them out throughout. But I can't wait. This is like an explosive matchup that should not disappoint.
Tony Ferguson on Super Draft, I think, is pretty interesting because of what we've seen throughout the past with his volume. 1.35 multiplier in the flex position, or a 2.05 multiplier there in the champion. I think that's someone to potentially look for there over on Super Draft. Let's move on. Before we move on to the next matchup, do want to let you know about a promo we got going on for new Awesemo Plus users with nearly every DFS sport in season, and the NBA, NHL heading into the playoffs. It's a great time to be a DFS player. Pick up your first month of Awesemo Plus Platinum for 25% off when you use the promo code GOLDRUSH. That's promo code GOLDRUSH, one word, all caps. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools at awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our premium Slack channel, lineup builder, and so much more. Don't miss this one. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. NBA season wraps up on Sunday. I will be a part of NBA Live Before Lock on Sunday, so be sure to join us, as interesting to kind of see how this does play out over the next couple of days in terms of this one. But let's move on to a matchup between two flyweight fighters, but the fight's at bantamweight because of Rogerio taking this fight on short notice. Initially, it was going to be Alex Perez taking on Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell, 8,900, Rogerio, 7,300, 20 and 11 respectively over on FanDuel. I mentioned about there are some fighters on this card under 8,000 that I'm going to be taking some chances on, and Rogerio is one of them because of a potential knockout. Matt Schnell, he's an up and down guy. Had been training at American Top Team for a while. He's now moved over to Force. I want to say this is his second camp now there at Fortis MMA. And, and something I mentioned about Fortis because we talked about it last week with Diego Ferreira. Saif Saud spoke this week, and he decided to stop the weight cut for Diego Ferreira. He got down to 161 and he stopped sweating. And he said, you know what? I'm not going to put my fighter through it. Went to Gregor Gillespie, explained the situation, said, hey, Gregor, if you don't want to take the fight, completely understand. And apparently him going up to Gregor Gillespie was the reason the fight ultimately happened.
Yeah, he's a poker player for sure. And, he's definitely trying to make sure that his fighter has an edge, but also not where they're going to, zap their energy or something like that. Like, if your guy's not sweating, there's no point of continuing on and perhaps affecting his performance. And I do think that was a very honest thing to do. So props to him. This matchup just screams volatility for sure. Like Matt Schnell, admittedly, it's a guy I can never get right. Okay. So I don't know how you guys want to listen to me on this fight, but I can be honest and say that I struggle with Matt Schnell because his defensive lapses are what cause me hesitance. Like I'm always worried about him getting caught with a big shot, him getting knocked out. You see it where he's even gone for an armbar from guard and gets hit with some short hammer fist and gets finished. Perhaps like cutting an excess amount of weight was really detrimental to a lot of his performances. But in the Tyson Nam fight, that's a power puncher, and he went out there and outclassed him. So that does give me some confidence. But as far as fighters under 8,000 that need to be in your GPP pool, Rogerio Bontorin is definitely it because of his jiu-jitsu, because of his KO ability. I am still favoring Matt Schnell, but I am definitely considering Rogerio Bontorin. He's not a bad play at all on the slate.
Yeah. But I also do think it's worth, you have to know the fact that it's a 135. Also, we should note big cage on Saturday night, not the 25-footer you're used to seeing there at the UFC Apex. This will be the 30-footer, of course, in front of a full crowd. I think that also plays into it. When I talked to Chris Sociagos about two and a half weeks ago, I brought up that point to him, and he's like, he goes, I do think it changes the fight. He goes, because that energy is just going to be in the building, from the first fight all the way to the end. We saw it there in Jacksonville last month at UFC 261. So I think that's something to take in there. Next up, we got a female matchup. We got Katlyn Chookagian taking on Viviana Araujo. Katlyn Chookagian, a minus 135 betting favorite in this one in terms of the DraftKings line. 8,800 for Katlyn Chookagian, 7,400 for Viviana Araujo. Well, we talk about the current DraftKings scoring system and fighters that I just think it does not benefit. Katlyn Chookagian's one of them because if she's not getting knockdowns, she's not going for a takedown, especially at 8,800. I mean, let's just say she lands 100 significant strikes, 100 total strikes. At 0.4, we're at 40 points there. Decision, 30 points. That's 70. That's not what you want at 8,800. To me, I think she's the right person to pick in this fight to win. But if Viviana Araujo is going to get it done, I think it's because she takes the fight to the ground.
Yeah, it's not my favorite DFS fight for sure. And I will be underweight on the fight, or I might even fade the fight completely because of Chookagian's herky-jerky, unorthodox style, pitter-patter, keying, from the outside, just kind of point fighting. And it's not going to lead to a lot of fantasy points. Viviana Araujo definitely has power in her hands, can knock out a lot of people within the division, and that's very rare. She possesses some strong jiu-jitsu as well. But we've seen Chookagian implement strong takedowns. Her husband's an accredited wrestler, so she does have some sneaky wrestling. This is just a fight where I see it not materializing to a ton of points, but I still like Chookagian's herky-jerky style to end up being victorious. And it mainly comes down to cardio for me. I think that she's going to have the better gas tank. And Araujo, I think over the course of 3 rounds, as the fight progresses, I think she can struggle when the pace is pushed.
Apparently, I missed the memo that I've got to have a dog in my lap for this show.
Listen, okay.
For people who can't see, you've got your new dog in your lap. Tyler's got his dog. And my dog's with my wife. So
okay, listen, my girl's out of town, and I got the puppy last week. And if I put him in the crate right now and we did the podcast, you guys wouldn't be able to hear anything. Okay, he's still getting used to crate training. If you guys stick towards the end of the show, I will introduce you to my dog, and I'll show him on full camera so you guys get to see. But yeah, he's a blessing for the family. He's an awesome pup. But that's pretty funny. We see Tyler, the producer, with his puppy as well. I love it.
By the way, Chookagian Araujo, fight goes the distance, -380.
Wow. Holy moly. I mean, that's how I foresee it going, unless Chookagian gets hit with a body shot, right? Because we did see her fold and crumble when she got hit with that body shot, but not many people could do that to her, and I do foresee this going 15.
I mean, look, I think that if you want to get some leverage on the field, and I would not recommend this if you're a single entry player, but if you're a multiple entry player, I would potentially throw some sprinkling of Caitlin Chookagian in there, just because I don't expect her to have any type of ownership. You know, just because, especially when we're talking about, GPPs and just looking, she's in that under 20% range that I always talk about on the show. Is that those are fighters that I'm always looking forward to, and who potentially we could find leverage on. If you're looking for leverage and somehow you think Chookagian can get the job done with the stoppage, maybe she gets some takedowns, maybe she gets a knockdown. We know the volume's going to be there. That's never a question with her, but man, it's really tough to pay that $8,800 price tag. Then our opening matchup of the pay-per-view will be a featherweight matchup between Shane Burgos and Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza, 7,800, 8,400 for Burgos. The betting odds, -140 for Shane Burgos. You want to take that Edson Barboza money, +120. Of course, this is the first time in nearly a year we have seen Shane Burgos since that loss against Josh Emmett. And, you look at Edson Barboza, now down 145 pounds. He had that fight against Dan Ige that I thought he won. Judges' scores didn't go away. And, you mentioned about those prop bets that I like to find. I found a prop bet on Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza wins round 3, +1,500.
Wow. Yeah. I'm excited for this matchup. This might be my one of top 3 favorite fights on the card. Like, I'm a striker. I love incredible striking matchups, and I think that this is going to definitely be one of them. I mean, Shane Burgos has phenomenal boxing and good volume for the division. Edson Barboza has some of the best Muay Thai, decent hands, but it's the kicks. The kicking game is what separates him from the rest of the division and the rest of the 155-pound division when he was reigning in that division. So, the kicking game is what makes things differently. In this fight, I would love to see maybe Edson Barboza invest in some leg kicks, especially going up against a guy who's so reliant on his hands, which means he's so heavy on his front leg. If Edson Barboza goes out there and throws a couple calf kicks, we could be looking at the end of the fight pretty early, Jason. So I like Edson Barboza's experience. I like his variety of attack. But you and I spoke a bit before the show of how both men have had periods where they get absolutely tuned up. So a guy like Shane Burgos, who presses forward, throws a ton of volume, could end up backing Barboza, could end up with a ton of volume, ton of strikes, and potentially a late finish. Not what I foresee happening, but this looks like a very sneaky fight to target, one that I will be targeting because I think that there could be knockdowns. I think there could be a late finish, but I do favor Edson Barboza's just complete game, and I'm excited to have him here as the underdog.
And the one thing about Shane Burgos is he is a guy that's always going to be in his opponent's face. He's not a guy that he is going to look to engage with his opponent here. And I don't know if you saw this earlier today. There's a video where Michael Chandler goes up to Shane Burgos and says, "Hey, you want to know who my favorite fighter on the roster is?" Goes up as Shane Burgos just because he loves his fighting style.
How cool is that? I saw that video and I'm like, wow, it's such a random fighter to think of as your favorite fighter, but it goes to show you that you can like anybody and you can like their style and their gameness. And, that Josh Emmett fight, I was big on Shane Burgos, and I thought that he could end up, out-voluming and out-striking him, but the bigger shots landed, and the bigger shots sat Shane Burgos down, and he's taken the time, necessary time off to somewhat heal from that, which I think is good, especially going up against Edson Barboza. I mean, the Dan Hooker fight really just kind of replays in my mind of how Edson Barboza just absolutely butchered him from body shots to kicks, just to the accumulation of shots. I think this is going to be a heck of a striker's delight, and I cannot wait to have exposure to it, and I cannot wait to watch it.
One of my concerns about Edson Barboza, this is a guy who's taken a lot of damage over the year. At what point is it just going to kind of be what ultimately is his failure because of the amount of damage he's taken over the years?
Yeah, so I mean, like if I was sitting there and Shane Burgos packed, some more power, I think that I would be really hesitant about recommending Barboza. But Burgos really gets by with volume, speed, and timing, which can still knock people out because it's not power that just knocks people out. But when I see Barboza, I think that he's matched up well against guys like that because he's not afraid, so to speak, or he's not shook by the power. When he was facing off against Justin Gaethje, it was evident that once you feel power from certain fighters, you just see the fight go out of their eyes and maybe even the will and the just kind of like, oh my God, he hits different. I don't foresee Barboza feeling that way against Shane Burgos, but I mean, when you get caught by a shot you didn't see coming, it can definitely happen. And obviously the damage he's accumulated over time is worrisome. So definitely have some Shane Burgos, but I am still favoring Barboza in the fight.
Samuel, I appreciate you there in the super chat. Of course, we'll get to your questions at the end of the show when we go down our fight picks and whatnot, but really do appreciate you there in the super chat. Let's move on to a matchup of Cachoeira Souza versus Andre Muniz. -110, the fight goes a distance here, so I think this is one of those fights you got to be looking at. 8,500 for Cachoeira. Muniz, 7,700, but overall in Fanduel, 15 for Cachoeira, 14 for Muniz, and -125 is Cachoeira as a betting favorite here. You brought up a really great point to me before the show about, in terms of a stylistic matchup, this is probably the best type of matchup they could give Cachoeira Souza at this point in his career when you're talking about going up against a fellow submission fighter. But I just go, since Cachoeira left Brazil and moved to Orlando, I just feel like there has not been a progression in his game where the rest of the division has progressed past him.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I mean, Cachoeira Souza, one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in history. I mean, he's a legend in regards to jiu-jitsu, and he's been very, very successful in the cage and has, an incredible MMA career for sure. I mean, he is, 26-9, but over the course of his later years in his career, he's been not exposed, but just outperformed against heavy-handed strikers or against finishers. You think about Kevin Holland. That was just the most odd sequence I think I've ever seen in any fight. Jan Blachowicz lost a split decision, who's now the champ. Can't really hang your head against that. Jack Hermanson. Jack Hermanson has been very dominant, but also somewhat inconsistent, dropping some fights that he probably should have won. And if you think about that fight, Cachoeira Souza did have to overcome some adversity, some grappling adversity. And that was something that I thought would never really happen. I never thought he'd get tested in that area. He's so dominant. But, Kelvin Gastelum, Robert Whitaker, Yoel Romero, I mean, those are his losses in the UFC. I don't feel bad about any of them. I really don't. And now that he's paired up against a guy who's primarily a grappler, comfortable off of his back, and is going to go back and test Cachoeira's roots, sounds like a matchup that Cachoeira should be able to succeed in. But it's just, has Father Time caught up to him? I think he has, 41. But I still think that at 41, he could probably, outmaneuver, get in better positions than Andre Muniz, is definitely the better striker of the two. And if you look at Andre Muniz's losses, he has been finished via TKO. So I do think Cachoeira is going to be a very popular play, despite being in the mid price at 8,500. It's just the confidence level is relatively, non-existent. I have no confidence in him. It's more of playing the name and playing what should happen rather than what has happened lately. Because if he loses this fight against Andre Muniz, who's primarily a grappler, it's not looking good for him going forward against anybody else within the division. So Andre Muniz, if he pushes a high pace, could break Cachoeira, but this is a tailor-made matchup for Cachoeira Souza.
Yeah, I mean, and I've thought more and more about this fight, I just wonder, is this a potential spot where Cachoeira wins via stoppage, and preferably, most notably, wins by TKO KO?
Yeah, I think so. And at that price range, you'll probably need him. So 8,500, I think he's a strong play.
Yeah, of course, we are sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. Of course, with Monkey Knife Fight, you are in charge. Head to monkeyknifefight.com and be sure to use that promo code Awesemo for an instant first match deposit up to $100. Of course, they got their more or less game. So since we were talking Cachoeira, Souza, and Andre Muniz, more or less 48.5 significant strikes for Cachoeira Souza.
Less.
20.5 for Andre Muniz.
Less. It's gonna. I mean, he's not gonna want to stand with Cachoeira. He's not gonna want to grapple with him. He's gonna want to clinch with him. I mean, that's what's gonna happen. And I don't think that Cachoeira has to land that many strikes to end up getting a victory. But I think that he's just gonna be outclassing him on the mat.
I will tell you, as I was looking at Monkey Knife Fight today, there are some more or less numbers out there that definitely intrigue me. I'll be playing over there this weekend. There's a couple I think I'm going to hop in here tonight and get locked in on those ones. But be sure to use that promo code Awesemo when you sign up for an instant first match deposit up to $100. Next up, we have got Lando Vannata taking on Mike Grundy. Mike Grundy, a minus 125 betting favor in this one. And this is the 8,200, 8,000 matchup. Mike Grundy, 8,200. Lando Vannata, 8,000. With Mike Grundy, what you love about him is that takedown potential, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, I love Mike Grundy. I really do. And I think that it's a very tricky matchup for Lando Vannata. Lando Vannata had an incredible debut despite the loss against Tony Ferguson on short notice. And ever since then, we've known him as a talented striker. But, throughout his UFC career, he's dropped some fights. And, we've seen it even in the Bobby Green matchup, the rematch, that he can get taken down and controlled at periods of the fight. And that does not bode well for him against Mike Grundy, who is a very, very accomplished wrestler. And I think that at 8,200, I was pleasantly surprised with it. Vannata has the name value, but I think that Grundy has the stylistic advantage in this matchup. At 8,200, I think he's going to be looking to take Vannata to Takedown City. Could be a sneaky fighter to include in your pool. If Grundy does struggle to get Vannata to the mat, he will probably fatigue, and that's where that Albuquerque Vannata could end up coming through for a late finish. But I like Grundy quite a bit at 8,200, and I think he will be a staple for a lot of my lineups.
Come on, man. How could you not love Lando Vannata? Not wanting to answer the question, but then answer the questions about allegedly, your guy, Josh Fabia, getting triangle choked in a bar.
Yeah, I mean,
here's my question. How does that happen in a bar scenario that you get triangle choked?
I was thinking that he must have got taken down, right? Like, he must have got taken down, or must have, maybe it was a mountain triangle. Who knows what it was? But, man, I hope some video surfaces, and I hope some more dirt on Fabia ends up coming up.
Someone in Jackson Wink has to have a video of that.
I hope so, and I hope that, I hope Diego Sanchez really wakes up and realizes what's happening, because, like, the more you read into it, the more sad the story is. And I mean, it's a 30 for 30 in the making. It really is, Jason. This is going to be a story that's going to be a part of MMA for a very long time. This is a very tricky and weird situation.
It's a train wreck. We all love train wrecks. We're waiting for a win is the next stop on the train. But I brought this up on my show as a pure joking aspect.
Yeah.
Thriller Fight Club. Main event. Jake Paul versus Josh Fabia. Co-main event, Dan Hardy, Diego Sanchez.
What'll probably happen is you'll see Jake Paul end up calling out Diego Sanchez. I mean, preying on the weak right now, right? And that's another UFC fighter who's looking for a payday. His options are almost non-existent now, being outcast from the MMA community because of Fabia's doing. So it's either that or bare knuckle. Let's be real.
Yeah, there's some interesting MMA free agents out there that I do wonder, has Thriller given them a fight call?
Oh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. They're going to do that to try to build Jake Paul. And I think Jake Paul, Diego Sanchez is probably what's going to happen, honestly.
There may be another name.
Yeah. Yep.
There may be another name.
Yeah.
Let's move on here. A matchup that, man, I do not like in turn, because I really don't have a trust in either one of these guys, and that is Jordan Wright and Jamie Pickett. Minus 105 for Jamie Pickett, minus 115 for Jordan Wright. 8,100. If I had to make a play in this one, Pete, I think it would be Jamie Pickett because I have more faith in his chin.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, right? That's kind of where the dialogue ends, right? Like, that's it. That's all we got. That's as much faith as we have. Jamie Pickett's fought the better competition, but it's barely better because they both have fought questionable competition. But I will say, like, Jamie Pickett has fought some UFC level competition, hasn't been successful against it. But I it does give me some confidence that he wasn't finished against Tafon and Chukwi. Whereas Jordan Wright, outside of early finishes, he just doesn't seem to be a UFC level fighter. I mean, you have Jamie Pickett losing a fight to Punahele Soriano. Punahele Soriano's good. Getting submitted by Charles Byrd as well. I just think that Jamie Pickett's aggressive and could be preying on that weakness in Jordan Wright's game of his defense, his striking defense just isn't all there. And when he gets hit, you can kind of see he doesn't like it. Even going back to the Anthony Hernandez fight that was overturned, you can see that. I mean, Jordan Wright is susceptible to getting cracked, rocked, and knocked out. Joaquin Buckley put on one of the worst knockouts I've ever seen on him. And, trained under Anthony Hardonk, Jordan Wright is, so he will have some sneaky kicks. And I think that's the one thing that Jamie Pickett has to watch out for, the sneaky kicks, whether it's the low kicks, the hard calf kicks, or the spinning techniques that can come from odd angles. But it's Jamie Pickett for me, but we're really dumpster diving here, Jason. And, as ugly as it is, they're both priced at 8,100. That price range is probably going to be required in order to be a part of the optimal lineup because I don't foresee this going the distance.
Yeah, this is one of those fights I think I'll still limit my exposure to. I just don't want to get too much exposure into it. But I think you have a good chance that this one, potentially could end up optimal. We'll see what happens. Of course, one of the things we do love is when you do send us those screenshots of your big wins, and of course, where you could potentially get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame. Of course, you got to rock that Awesemo avatar app. All you got to do is go to awesemo.com/avatar to download that image. And we placed in the top 3 of a contest with over 5,000 entries. Just tweet your wins to the Awesemo HOF Twitter account and you'll win a free month of Awesemo Plus. Some of our recent winners, Joel taking it down there in the NBA, 10K Mini Max winning 1,000. Also, Big Ben winning there over on Fanduel, and Ernest also winning over in NBA. You see his tweet there, right there on the screen. Spark winning over there on Yahoo. Also, Marty and Sean Smith also taking down wins. So hopefully we can see your screenshot here on late Saturday night, early Sunday morning about your wins there at UFC 262. Of course, we're here to help break this one down for you. Of course, myself and Josh Engelman will be here on Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern time for Live Before Lock. Of course, we'll be answering all of your questions. But, Pete, let's move on to the next matchup, and that will be Andrea Lee taking on Antonia Shevchenko. Antonia Shevchenko, a minus 125 betting favorite. Andrea Lee plus 105. And one of the things, and I talk about this all the time, Pete, of looking at the betting odds. And the betting public has been all over Andrea Lee in this one. She started up at plus 160, now down to plus 105. In terms of a DFS aspect, I don't love this fight in terms of DFS, especially when you're talking about the price point of Antonia Shevchenko at 9,200. I feel like if her last name was not Shevchenko, I don't think people are as high on her as they are.
Yeah, I mean, that's completely fair, right? I mean, we've heard of training partners of so-and-so. We've heard of sisters or brothers of so-and-so. And obviously their stock is always automatically elevated when, it's just really brought on by, their brother or their sister. And I will say that, Antonina, she's not bad at all. She's a a good fighter for the division, but I think that, her salary is really overblown because of her previous performance over Ariane Lipski, scoring 115 points and getting her out of there within the second round. So automatically she's going to come in as a heavy favorite, especially when she's going up against a fighter in Andrea Lee, who's on a 3-fight losing streak within the UFC. So, preying on the weak, and that's how odds work, right? You see a fighter who's just coming off a victory, you see a fighter who's on a skid, and Andrea Lee could be a sneaky fighter to target, but this is another fight like the Viviane Araujo fight where I just don't feel like it's necessary for lineups. Like I'm okay fading it because it seems like it's going to be a back and forth clinch fest where despite Shevchenko getting taken down at times, Andrea Lee can be taken down as well. And I think it's going to be a back and forth fight, both exchanging on the feet. Shevchenko does like to engage in the clinch, and that's where she can have some success, working strong knees. And maybe this is more about control time against the cage. But at 9,200, right, she has to do something extremely well in order to pay off that price tag. And I just don't really foresee it happening, despite Andrea Lee being on a 3-fight skid. I think it's a closer fight than what the odds say. I don't mind people siding with Andrea Lee. I mean, she's a strong striker, decent wrestler, could possibly expose Shevchenko. But I do think a fighter like Antonina Shevchenko is probably evolving each fight and getting better. I mean, she is training with her sister all the time, which doesn't mean a lot, but it's hard to get worse when you are surrounded by the bullet. And I think that she will get better. She's seeing one of the best female fighters every single day in the training room. So I still favor Shevchenko, but the price tag is hideous. I'll be underweight to the entire matchup.
This has 15-minute decision written all over it.
Yeah.
The Vegas odds make that claim as well, as it is -370 to go distance. Andrea Lee has gone the distance in all her UFC fights. And when you look at when Antonina has gotten a stoppage, Ariane Lipski, Lucy Padova, and also on the Contender Series. So when she's had that step up in competition, it's gone 15 minutes. The problem I have is even if I want to play a 10-15% exposure on Antonina here, is at 9,200. I don't necessarily see the path to her being optimal at that price tag with how I expect the fight to go.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, a lot of people, just like Samuel B in our chat, and shout out to Sam, what's up? Initially looking forward to rostering Shevchenko because of her previous performance, how good she looked. But I will say that, that Andrea Lee's sneaky good. Like, not sneaky good, but she's better than what her record shows. And she's a tough fight because she's skilled in all areas. Which is why I think that this could be a lot of negating each other's strengths and kind of just, teetering, tottering back and forth and edging each other out. So it's still Shevchenko for me, but the price tag makes this almost unplayable.
Andrea Lee is my number one pump play of the week.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So in a win, Jason, what do you think she would score?
My gut thing is 70.
Okay, and you'd be fine with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
when you look at throughout her UFC career, she's been a high volume puncher. So
yeah,
we've seen that. She's not a takedown artist. Obviously there has been things away from fighting that have gone on in her life. So if you told me she's going to land 100 strikes in this matchup, I would not be shocked. I do think that we are going to see takedown attempts from Shevchenko throughout this fight.
Probably. And, everything you said is fair. I think that Andrea Lee should be a part of your GPP pool, but I don't think she could break the slate. I just don't really think it's a likely scenario where a fighter in the 7K range could get 90 to 100 points. Like for me, that's kind of like what I'm thinking of. Like, all right, they might be a part of the optimal. She could probably get 70 to 80 points, and I would agree with you. If she gets more than that, I would be completely shocked and surprised. But, kudos to you if you're correct on that. And I think she's going to be a popular underdog because of her box score, and you think she scored 67.8 points per fight. And in a loss to Roxanne Modafferi, her last time out, 97 significant strikes, 3 takedowns, scored 71 points in a loss, Jason. So, definitely will be popular, I think. So you might be onto something here.
Yeah, there are 3 fighters, 7,500 and below, I am targeting this week in terms of my under 8,000 plays, and I think you'll understand who they are when we give our straight up fight picks.
Okay.
Of course, do want to let all of our fans know that Yahoo Sports Daily Fantasy will have a special deal tomorrow for anybody who watches our shows tomorrow for the NBA Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock starting at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. All new and existing Yahoo DFS users will receive a free contest entry into their big NBA baller contest. That's 100% free entry into Yahoo's main GPP contest tomorrow. So make sure to tune into our NBA Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock shows tomorrow to find out how you can get that free entry. Of course, I'm always watching our NBA coverage, of course, not also because I'm a part of it, but also because I'm trying to develop my lineups and figure out who's in, who's out, who to put in your lineup, which does make NBA DFS pretty tough because you're trying to figure out who's in and who's out. As I was putting together some lines, like, do I really want to put Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in the same lineup together? Will they actually both play?
Yeah, or will they actually both produce, right? I mean,
they're both starting tonight. I have not looked at the box score yet during the show, but they were both starting tonight. So we'll see how well that works out for me. All right, let's move on to a fight that I know was a popular topic of.
It's so bad, Jason. It's so bad. Let's be real. This is so
our
bad.
Second biggest favorite of the night. Gina Mazany taking on Priscilla Cachoeira. 9,300 for Gina Mazany, 6,900 for Priscilla Cachoeira. Look, if you are going to take Gina Mazany, the thought process to be she is taking Priscilla Cachoeira to take down City. But buyer beware. If she can't take her to take down City, you might be sweating out potentially a Cachoeira knockout.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, right? Cachoeira could easily knock out Gina Mazany, and in the UFC and Gina Mazany's losses, we have seen her crumble to pressure. But, being a part of Glory MMA, it's hard to, not recommend anybody that's under the tutelage of James Krause. We speak of it every week. And, despite coming in here at 9,300, the most expensive fighter on the slate, which absolutely blew my mind. I think that she's a strong play from the the wrestling and takedown aspect. I think that, Priscilla Cachoeira could struggle and, could get taken down and controlled throughout. And, I think that if you pair her up with some other fighters on this card, this could be the sneakiest fight to target because Cachoeira possesses that one-shot power. You saw it against Shayna Dobson. But it's Gina Mazany for me. And this fight, I wish it wasn't even happening, but it is. And unfortunately will be a part of the optimal because of how volatile both fighters fight.
Yeah, it's one of these matchups that, to me, if you're going to take Gina Mazany, I will be underweight on the field on this one for what we're seeing in terms of ownership projection. Of course, if you do want to check out our ownership projection, just sign up for an Awesemo Plus. You can sign up for the Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $8.95 to help you put together your lineups here and all the great tools that we have over there. That top fire tool is definitely something that I use each and every week when I am developing my lineups. Now we got two more matchups left. Kevin Aguilar taking on Tucker Lutz. 7,900 for Kevin Aguilar, 8,300 for Tucker Lutz. Let me get your thoughts on this one, Pete.
Yeah, so I mean, Kevin Aguilar coming in, I think is going to be a nice piece for a lot of my lineups. I think at 7,900, you're getting a significant discount for a UFC veteran, and coming up against a guy that's making his UFC debut, and Tucker Lutz. It's not that I'm not impressed by Tucker Lutz. I think he's okay. I just think that Kevin Aguilar is not bad at all. I mean, former LFA champ. You're really talented. Good striking. Has dropped some fights, but he's fought some legitimate competition and has some wins over some good competition as well. Good boxing. Decent sprawl. And I could say that despite getting outclassed against Charles Rosa. A win over Rick Glenn means a lot. A win over Enrique Barzola means a lot. I don't care that it was in 2018, 2019. That does show me that you are a part of a level that can compete with some of the top guys or some of the mid-tier guys within the UFC. And not getting finished by Dan Ige is another thing that I really give him props. And I think that Kevin Aguilar 7,900, one of the best plays on a slate, honestly. Outside of a an early first round finish, I think that Lutz will be a nice little fade for me.
Yeah, I'm with you in terms of that one. I do like Kevin Aguilar. Nick, I will get to your question about Anthony and Shevchenko here in a moment. One more matchup to go. The opening matchup, of course, this was initially supposed to be Joel Alvarez taking on Christos Giagos. However, Alvarez visa issues, unable to get into the country. So Sean Soriano returns to the UFC to take on Christos Giagos. And I'm just going to let people know, this is a fight that me and Pete are not on the same page on, because I am a full believer that Christos Giagos, he is taking Sean Soriano to take down City.
I think that it's definitely possible. And I think that Christos Giagos, the takedown route will be a popular narrative for a lot of people. On the other side of it, I do want to say that Sean Soriano is not the same fighter he was in his early UFC tenure, and training and being a part of Sanford MMA and a staple of Sanford MMA. Over the years, he has become a main sparring partner for Michael Chandler. He has trained with some of the best guys, and I think that he could prevent some takedowns and punish Christos Giagos, who has a questionable gas tank. So I think Sean Soriano is one of the best GPP dart throws on the entire slate. Now, this fight will most likely be a part of the optimal, and it will continue the stretch where, the first fight of the night is like above 50% a part of the time of the optimal. I mean, we had an awesome listener who actually, goes back and has been keeping track of this for some time, and it's over 50% of the time, first fight is optimal. So you just have to be on the right side of it. And Christos Giagos with a full camp could expose a short notice Sean Soriano replacement. Absolutely. If Sean Soriano isn't submitted, I like him from a late finish perspective. Dynamite kicks, dynamite hands, strong training partners. Give me Sean Soriano, part of my long shot pool. But Christos Giagos, Jason Floyd likes him quite a bit.
Christos Giagos via submission plus 575.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, it's the gas tank for me. Christos Giagos, in the low kicks and, getting hit by a guy that, what happens if he can't lay the takedown? What happens? Things might get interesting.
Yeah, to me, the 9,100 price tag does concern me a little bit. Okay. If he can't get the finish, how many takedowns can he get? Because concern would be is what happens if it's just a takedown round, and third round cardio becomes a little bit of an issue. But also you have one fighter in this one that's been preparing.
True.
Christos got this fight, I believe, 13 weeks ago.
True.
He has been in long time preparations for this one. So that is something to pay attention to there as well. But of course, before we get into our straight up fight picks, of course, be sure to subscribe to Awesemo here on YouTube if you have not done that. Hit that notification bell. We got great shows for you each and every day. I know Emac's checking in. You got to check out what Emac does with our MLB coverage to help you with your MLB lineups. And of course, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. We do appreciate that. Let's go straight up fight picks.
Right.
Let's go, bottom to the top. So let's start off with that first fight. Christos Giagos.
You're starting off with fire. You're starting off with fire because we're going to disagree, and I'm cool with it. I'm picking Sean Soriano, and this is not DFS related. It's a fight you need to target. But I'm siding with Sean Soriano. I think he's going to get it done.
Christos Giagos, who, by the way, got married during fight camp.
No, it's a bad sign. It's a bad sign.
Yeah. I always joke with him. Says, so did your now wife say, you better not get a black eye a week before this wedding?
Yeah, right?
Next up, Kevin Aguilar versus Tucker. Let's give me Kevin Aguilar.
Yeah, Kevin Aguilar for me.
Gina Mazany versus Priscilla Cachoeira.
Gina Mazany.
I will agree with you there. Andrea Lee versus Anthony Shevchenko.
I already know where you're going. I'm going Shevchenko still.
Give me Andrea Lee for the upset.
Okay,
Jamie Pickett, Jordan Wright.
Close your eyes. Jamie Pickett.
I will go with you, Jamie Pickett there. Mike Grundy, Lando Vannata.
I like Grundy.
I like Grundy as well. Another one I think you don't feel great with either side. Jacare Souza, Andre Muniz.
Yeah, Jacare Souza, I guess.
I will go Jacare. Barboza and Burgos. Give me Barboza, even though I don't feel good about that one.
Yeah, I like Barboza. I think the kicks will be the difference.
Chookagian versus Araujo. Give me Chookagian.
Chookagian.
Rogerio versus Schnell. I will go Rogerio.
I've been going back and forth on this all day. I'll go Schnell.
Dariush Ferguson.
Give me Dariush.
I don't like me doing this. Give me El Cachoeira.
Okay.
Chandler Oliveira. Give me Iron Mike.
Ooh, okay. I'm going Charles Oliveira. And, this is an incredible card. It really is. If you aren't doing something on Saturday, I would strongly suggest watching it. If you're a casual fan, a hardcore fan, this is going to be a treat, top to bottom. Very, very good card. And, I'm keeping my promise, Jason. Let's see. This is Marty. If you guys haven't seen him popping up, throughout. And this is my new puppy. So, thanks for tuning in.
I feel like Marty has disagreed with some of your analysis.
I mean, if you want to go back in the video, right? Maybe every time he fidgets, just go the opposite side of my pick. Maybe that's something. I mean, my brother one time did the NCAA tournament by having the two teams and having treats, one treat on each team. And he won the entire pool because his dog just kept, picking the correct team. So maybe you go back and you watch this again and you see where Marty fidgeted and maybe he's onto something.
Boy, my vet would not agree with that tactic.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Mentioned Sammy has super chat earlier with his usual question. So let's pop a top 2 cash.
Okay. Top 2 cash. Let's see. Who do I feel really, really, really good about? Mike Grundy. I like him. I think that he's fairly priced, and I like Kevin Aguilar.
I do agree with you on Grundy. I think in terms of cash, God, I hate I'm going to say this, Chookagian. Top 2 GPPs.
Ooh, top 2 GPPs. Gina Mazany probably. I hate that, and probably Christos Giagos. Both 2 takedown threats. Throw Grundy in there as well.
I was going to say Grundy and Giagos. The Chookagian on cash is just because I feel safe that she's going to win.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's what. Top underdogs. I'll take the top 3 underdogs. I'm targeting are Michael Chandler, Rogerio Bontorin, and Andrea Lee.
Edson Barboza. Kevin Aguilar, Sean Soriano.
Favorite MVPs and champions. I'm looking at Mike Grundy at $17 over on Fanduel as an MVP, just because of the takedown ability.
Yeah, I love Grundy on all platforms.
Inside the distant calls. I think this is a fight card that has a chance to have a lot of decisions, but I think in terms of inside distance, I'm looking at the main event. Burgos Barboza is another one.
Ooh, you think that it's going to be inside the distance?
3rd round. I think someone it just wears the other one down. If I was I think Pickett Wright probably ends in a finish too.
Yeah, I mean, the Schnell Bontorin fight really I can't see that going 15. I think that somebody's going to make a mistake. Schnell might get caught with a big shot. Bontorin could end up getting caught with a big shot or even submitted. So, I mean, it's an exciting fight. I think that's interesting from an inside the distance, and obviously the main event. I don't foresee that going 5.
The upset of the night call to me, I think you look at one of 3 fights, and they're all the female matchups.
Really?
Yeah.
Upset of the night.
You got a lot of close lines here on the betting odds too.
Is that cheating? When I say Enzo Barboza,
No. I mean, Edson is what +1. He's +120.
That's cheating.
But a lot of these lines are just very close.
All right, you ready? Because I already said it once. Upset of the night, Sean Soriano. I think it happens.
Takedown City, baby. He's going to Takedown City. Mentioned a question that we got from Nick a little earlier about Shevchenko. He says, is Antonina in play on FanDuel for $17? At the $17, I would rather go the Mike Grundy route.
Agree.
Maybe if you wanted to go to a $16 route, I really don't like Tucker Lutz in that position. No. Or you can go $1 more and get Michael Chandler.
Yeah, I'd rather do that, I guess. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah. But of course, I will be here on Saturday. Pete, unable to be here on Saturday for Live Before Lock. Josh Engelman will be filling in for him. Of course, get Josh's perspective as he offers a different perspective, in terms of some of the analytical side, as me and Pete are definitely more about the fighting side of this one. Pete, anything you want to mention before we get out of here, man?
No, I mean, I just want to say thanks for tuning in, guys. Before you head out, if you enjoy our show, just, let us know by, whether leaving a comment or hitting that like button. If you could hit that like button, we really appreciate it. I mean, pretty awesome that Josh is going to be here with Jason. I mean, you talk about one of the best guys within the entire industry. So I think you guys are lucky, especially how he, provides a different approach. And I can't wait to see this card the following day.
Of course, that'll be 5 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. UFC Live Before Lock. Of course, be sure to keep it locked here also all day long on Friday, as we'll have you covered for all the sports out there from NBA, MLB, and so much more. So that is going to do it for this edition of the Awesemo MMA DFS Strategy Show. I will talk to you again on Saturday for Live Before Lock. Good night, everybody.